Prince Harry entered a London courtroom appearing calm and assured, prepared to challenge the publisher of the Daily Mail in a case that he has framed as a long-overdue stand against media intrusion. What unfolded instead has become one of the most damaging moments of his public life, as his own words, published in his memoir Spare, were used by the defense to directly contradict his sworn testimony. The scene was striking. As passages from Spare were read aloud in court, Prince Harry appeared visibly unsettled. The memoir, which he had repeatedly described as a truthful and meticulously fact-checked account of his life, was now being presented as evidence undermining his credibility. Legal observers described the moment as pivotal, marking a sharp shift in the tone of the proceedings and raising serious questions about the strength of his case. At the center of the controversy was Harry's testimony, denying that certain private conversations had taken place. He stated under oath that these discussions never occurred. However, defense counsel produced excerpts from Spare in which Harry himself had described the same conversations in detailed narrative form. The contradiction was clear, direct, and difficult to explain. Legal analysts note that this type of inconsistency poses a severe problem in any courtroom. When a witness's published statements conflict with sworn testimony, credibility becomes the central issue. In this case, credibility is not a peripheral concern. It is the foundation upon which Harry's claims rest. Observers inside the courtroom described a visible change in Harry's demeanor, as his own words were read back to him. One journalist present said the confidence he displayed at the start of the day appeared to drain away. Another remarked that Harry seemed genuinely surprised by the strategy, despite the fact that Spare has been in the public domain for months and was widely discussed during his promotional tour. The implications extend far beyond embarrassment. Legal experts warn that contradictions of this nature risk undermining an entire case. Courts rely heavily on the consistency and reliability of testimony, and once that reliability is called into question, it is difficult to recover. Judges, they emphasize, do not simply forget such moments. The financial stakes are also enormous. The judge overseeing the case issued an unusually direct warning regarding costs. Claimants in the lawsuit, including Prince Harry, have collectively spent an estimated £40 million in legal fees. The judge made it clear that if the case fails, claimants could be held personally responsible for a substantial portion of those costs. For Harry, this presents a serious risk. His post-royal income streams have shown signs of strain. While his memoir generated a reported $20 million advance, other ventures have produced less consistent returns. His Netflix projects have underperformed expectations, and his Spotify partnership ended prematurely after producing minimal content. Speaking engagements have reportedly declined, and industry insiders suggest future deals may be harder to secure. Sources familiar with the proceedings say Harry's legal team may have underestimated the preparedness of the defense. One observer noted that the prince appeared taken aback by the depth of documentation presented against him, as though he had expected a more deferential approach. Instead, the defense conducted a methodical and aggressive cross-examination. A key moment involved Harry's denial of conversations with his former girlfriend, Chelsea Davy, during a trip to Botswana. Harry insisted that certain exchanges had been fabricated or exaggerated by the media. In response, defense lawyers read from Spare, where Harry had described those same conversations in vivid detail, including their setting and emotional tone. Legal commentators highlighted the seriousness of this contradiction. When a witness denies an event under oath that he has previously described in writing, the issue escalates beyond credibility into potential legal exposure. While no accusation of perjury has been formally made, analysts stress that courts take such discrepancies very seriously. Comparisons have already been drawn to other high-profile cases where personal communications or publications contradicted testimony, permanently damaging credibility. Once a narrative collapses under documentary evidence, recovery is rare. The courtroom atmosphere reportedly became tense as these passages were read. Several observers noted that Harry's legal team appeared uncomfortable, avoiding eye contact and shuffling papers. The defense, by contrast, remained composed and deliberate. Harry's difficulties did not end there. Throughout his testimony, the judge was forced to intervene multiple times as Harry argued with counsel, rather than answering questions directly. Legal professionals stress that this behavior is viewed unfavorably by courts, as it suggests a lack of discipline and respect for the process. At one point, the judge reminded Harry that witnesses are expected to respond to questions, not debate them. Such a rebuke is unusual and signals growing judicial frustration. Observers described Harry's demeanor as combative, with body language suggesting irritation and defensiveness. These interventions matter. Judges rarely interrupt testimony unless a witness is significantly disrupting proceedings. Each correction becomes part of the official record, contributing to an overall assessment of credibility and conduct. Harry's emotional display during testimony also drew scrutiny. He became visibly emotional while describing the impact of media coverage on his wife, Meghan Markle. While the moment might have elicited sympathy under different circumstances, it raised eyebrows because the lawsuit concerns events that occurred before he met Meghan. Courtroom observers noted that the emotional moment occurred during questioning by his own lawyer, rather than under cross-examination. Media analysts suggested that this timing made the display appear rehearsed, rather than spontaneous. Several reports described the reaction from journalists as skeptical rather than sympathetic. Judges and juries, legal experts note, are adept at distinguishing between genuine emotion and performance. Emotional testimony that appears strategically timed can backfire, reinforcing doubts rather than alleviating them. Another major issue raised during cross-examination was Harry's claim that he had been prevented from pursuing legal action against the media while he was a working royal. He argued that an informal royal policy discouraged litigation, leaving him unable to defend himself. The defense challenged this narrative by citing multiple successful lawsuits brought by Prince William and Catherine while they were working members of the royal family. These cases resulted in damages and legal victories, undermining Harry's claim that such action was impossible. This contradiction leaves two possibilities, analysts say. Either Harry misrepresented the constraints he faced, or he was unaware of legal actions taken by his own brother. Neither explanation strengthens his position. The defense also highlighted what they described as hypocrisy in Harry's stance on media commercialization. While accusing tabloids of profiting from his private life, Harry himself has earned substantial sums through books, documentaries, interviews, and streaming deals centered on those same experiences. Industry estimates place Harry's post-royal earnings well above $150 million. One commentator summarized the issue bluntly: "No one has monetized Prince Harry's life more effectively than Prince Harry himself." Adding to the contradiction, Harry reportedly authorized a Daily Mail journalist to communicate on his behalf during the course of the legal dispute, a fact raised during cross-examination. The defense argued that this undermined his claim of being exploited by the very outlet he continued to engage with when convenient. Outside the courtroom, reports suggest Harry experienced profound personal isolation during his visit to the UK. Sources claim he repeatedly checked for contact from his father or brother, none of which came. The absence of family support was conspicuous, particularly given the public nature of his legal battle. At court, Harry was accompanied not by relatives or long-standing associates, but by acquaintances from outside royal circles. Commentators noted the symbolism, suggesting it reflected the consequences of prolonged estrangement. Financial analysts warned that the legal costs alone could pose a serious threat to Harry's long-term stability. With major media deals faltering and expenses mounting, the prospect of personal liability for millions of pounds looms large. Taken together, the courtroom contradictions, judicial rebukes, emotional missteps, and financial risks paint a troubling picture. Legal observers increasingly question whether Harry's case can survive the damage done to his credibility. What happens next remains uncertain. A loss could mean severe financial consequences and lasting reputational harm. Even a partial victory may not undo the impressions formed during testimony. For now, one conclusion is difficult to avoid. The courtroom, rather than vindicating Prince Harry, has exposed vulnerabilities that may define the next chapter of his public life.